Welcome back, guys. So in the previous part we have worked on how to display data and how to make a post request using React query and React.js. Now in this part we are going to work on how to make a delete request to delete a post from our database and a put request to update our post. Okay, now let's get started. Now I'm going to come back to the VS Code and open this contact.jsx. Down here you can see we have two buttons. The first one is delete button and the second one is update button. So at first we will implement how to delete a post. Now I'm going to open this fetch contact file, and inside here we need to make a new function to make a delete request. So I'm going to write here export const remove contact. Inside here we need to have a try and catch block, and it's going to be an asynchronous function again. Now we need to receive an ID from our post. So down here I'm going to write await access.delete request. Again we need to get this base URL /API/contact, and finally we need to print this ID. So if you remember, inside this route we had this delete request following this dynamic ID. So we are going to pass this ID dynamically. Okay, now following that we are going to write delete and ID. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste this error here. Now I need to open this contact.jsx, and at first we need to write a comment here, and now we need to have a useMutation hook again. So I'm going to write here const object is equal to useMutation. I'm going to import that from React query. So again we need to receive this muted is loading is error. Now inside this useMutation hook we need to have a key, which is gonna be this contact. Okay, and following that we need to send our ID. So I need to destructure that underscore ID from the contact, which is coming from the database, and I'm gonna write that here. Following that we need to paste our function from the fetch contact.jsx. Okay, now we need to have a block here, and again we need to have that on success. So I'm gonna copy and paste that query client again here, and we need to copy this query client.invalidate queries. Okay, now I'm gonna import this use query client. Alright, as we can see we don't have any error in the browser. That's cool. Now we need to set an on click to this button, and we need to paste this muted here, and finally we need to send this ID underscore ID to our server. Now let's check it. Okay, seems we have an error here. Now let's check that in the browser. I did not delete this part because I want to show you how to debug your code when you face some errors. You can see that we missed a slash before delete and our ID here. So I'm gonna come back and add this slash before this ID and delete route here. Okay, now if I click this button you can see our data is deleted from the browser. Alright, okay, we have successfully made the delete function. Now let's move to the next button, which is update. So when we click this button we want all the data to be printed inside this form, and again we will have two separate functions, one for adding a new post and one for updating the post. Okay, now in this case we are going to use context API. So context API is a built-in React.js state management, and we can manage our states. Now inside this search we need to have a new folder for our context and a new file here. I'm going to generate the React code again here, and at first we need to create our context. Okay, and now you need to change this div to be this contact context here, but you need to add this provider. Alright, and we need to close our div with this contact context.provider. Okay, and now we need to receive this children because we are gonna wrap our application with this context API. So I'm gonna print the children in here. Alright, now this context API will send some value to our application, and now we need to have a use state hook in here. I'm gonna call that update. Set update is equal to use state, and the initial value is gonna be null. Alright, now we are gonna send this data to our application. So context API is a cool thing that will help you avoid props drilling. It means that you don't have to pass data from one component to other component. Instead, you will have access to the data in all over the component. Later on, you can see how it works. Now we need to wrap our application using this context. So I'm gonna open this main.jsx here, and in here you need to import the context and write this app inside. Now we have access to this use state hook in all over the application. Okay, down here we need to have an export function so we can receive our data in whatever component we want. Now I'm going to write here export contact context share is equal to arrow function, use context, and we need to print this contact context in here. So from now on, we can destructure our data from context API using this function. Okay. Now let's move to the contact.jsx, and in here we need to destructure set update from this contact context share function. Okay. We need to get this update. Now let's console log this update if we are having this or not. I'm gonna inspect the browser, and you can see the initial value is null. It means that we have successfully connected our context API to this application. Alright, now down here we need to set a new function for when we click the update button. So when we click the update button, we want to send all the data to this set update function. Okay, and again we need to navigate to our form. So inside here we need to import use navigate hook again. Okay, import that from React Router DOM, and down here we need to choose our directory, which is /add. Alright, now let's make an on click to our button here, and it's gonna be handle update. Alright, now if I click this button, I will be directed to the form page here, and in here I'm gonna inspect. Okay, and now I'm gonna open this add contact here, and again in here I need to destructure this set update and update again in here. Okay, and now I'm gonna console log this update to check whether I have received this data or not. Okay, as soon as I click this button, you can see inside this form page we have a new data which is coming from the card. It is a separate card data, and now we need to display them inside this form. Okay, now we need to define a use effect hook in here. Okay, now inside here we need to set a condition. We need to check if there is some data inside this update use set hook, then we want to set contact, and then we need to send that update to our set contact function. So I'm gonna write here a block. At first we need to get all the data exist inside our contact, and then we need to reassign our data to our update data like this. Okay, now let's check. You can see that our form is filled with the new data, but here we got a problem with date of birth. That's because you can see that the format inside this birth is different than the format inside our form. Now if we take a look at this birth, you can see we have the year, month and day here, and following that we have the time. So what do we need to do is we need to change this string to an array, and we will separate that with this t which is inside here, and then we will get the first index. Now let me show you inside the code. So inside here we need to write dot split, and we are gonna split our string using this t. It means that we change this string to an array and just get the first index. Okay, now you can see our form is filled with our date of birth. Alright, and now let's change this title here. So when we want to add a new contact, this text should be add contact, but when we want to update a contact, it should be update contact. So I'm gonna come back here, and we need to set a condition here. We say if there is a data inside this update, we wanna print the text update contact here. Otherwise, we wanna print the text add contact. Okay. Now you can see because we have data inside this update, we have update contact here. Now let's change this button text as well. So down here we need to set a condition again. I'm gonna copy and paste the previous condition here and just change this to be update, and this one is gonna be submit. So when there is a data, we wanna write update. If there is no data, we wanna write submit. Okay, now you can see our text is changed here. Okay, this is for when we have data. And what if we don't have any data inside our update useState hook? You can see our inputs are empty, and this text add contact is printed here with this submit. Okay, now our form is ready. Now let's make the update function. So at first we need to open this fetch contact.jsx again, and down here we need to write export const update contact is equal to arrow function, and now we need to receive data which is contact. We need to write try and catch here, and asynchronous function. Inside this try we need to write await access.put base URL API contact and our contact ID. And finally, we need to send this contact data to the server. I'm gonna copy and paste this error message here again. Okay. Now let's copy this function from here, and down here inside this handle submit, we need to set a condition. We need to check if there is an update data inside our update useState hook. We want to print something. Otherwise, we want to print the previous function, which is adding a new contact. Okay. Okay. Now let's work in the new function. So I'm gonna copy and paste this useMutation hook again. Now I'm gonna change these names to be update contact because they will be duplicated. Okay. And now we need to copy this function from here and change this function to a new function, which is update contact. We need to import that. Okay, but because they look to be duplicates, I'm gonna add a new s in here. Alright, now our function is ready. Let's paste that inside this condition, and we need to send this contact data. Alright, and again we want to be redirected to the main page, so I'm gonna copy and paste this and navigate here. Alright, now let's check if our update functionality is working or not. But before that, we need to destructure this ID from our update useState hook, because we need to send this ID to our API. Okay, now let's check. Okay, I'm gonna update this text here, phone number and date of birth. Now let's update. You can see that our cart is updated immediately. Okay, we have an issue with our date of birth. So to fix that, we need to open the VS Code again, and we need to install a new library which is called moment. Just install that. Okay, and now we need to open this contact.jsx and import that moment here. And down here you need to wrap this text with curly braces and write this moment. Inside this parentheses write this birth dot format, and the format is gonna be this L. Okay, now let's check in the browser. You can see that our date of birth is formatted. Okay, alright guys, now let's add a new card here. You can see I could add a new card, and if I click this button, I'm able to delete a card here. And if I click this button, I will be redirected to the form page to update my contact here. I'm gonna change a new text here. Okay, if I click this update, you can see that my card is updated. Alright guys, that's it. It was the final video for this application. I hope it was helpful for you. So if you like to watch more videos like this, please give a subscribe to my channel and like this video. See you in the next video.